Hello everyone, my name is Wasastjerna.
And I'm Essi Weseri.
We are lawyers and close friends since 15 years back. Lately, in addition to our work as lawyers and juggling kids and family, we have been thinking a lot about good leadership. How does one become successful as a business leader? What actually makes a good leader?
And what skills does a leader need today? And perhaps more importantly, in the future? What's the secret to success of great business leaders? We became really curious and wanted to find answers to these questions by learning from the best. To do this, we founded Leadcast, a new podcast 2 years ago.
In Leadcast, we interview top business leaders in Finland about their career paths and leadership. Our prominent guests have included experienced CEOs of global stock-listed companies, boardroom professionals and seasoned entrepreneurs, a president of Finland, a philosopher, a top chef, and an elite sports coach, all leaders in their fields of expertise. Today, this passion project of ours has grown into one of the most popular podcasts in Finland. By now, we have published more than 100 episodes. And you know what? We really did get some answers.
And they're not what we expected. We expected the leaders to talk mostly about the hard work and long hours required, about hitting the numbers, nailing KPIs, and reaching financial targets. When talking about leadership, we didn't expect to hear all these thoughts about emotions, passion, joy, personal strengths and weaknesses, and, crucially, about failures.
Today, we have chosen to share with you 3 important takeaways from Leadcast, skills that you need to master to become a successful leader. Let's start with authenticity. To be yourself, an authentic person, is the most common piece of advice we get from our guests when we ask them about good leadership. Every single one of them has stated that to become successful as a business leader, a team leader, or even in leading yourself, you need to know yourself and be who you are. Good leadership demands the expression of an authentic self. Try to lead like someone else, say someone you admire, and you will fail.
Establishing authenticity as a leader requires at least 2 things. First, you must ensure that your actions are consistent with your words. Otherwise, others will never accept you as authentic. But it's not enough just to practice what you preach or walk the talk. To get people to follow you, you will have to make them relate to you. So the second aspect of authentic leadership is finding common ground with the people around you.
And being authentic is something that we have learned ourselves throughout our podcast project by sharing our own stories with our guests. For example, in our very first interviews, we both felt really nervous, almost like imposters, 2 lawyers pretending to be smooth podcast hosts all of a sudden. Who are we to interview these busy and important people? Are our questions smart enough? But very soon, we realized something important. Some of our guests, including experienced CEOs and entrepreneurs, they felt nervous too.
And actually, after recording, quite many of our guests asked us whether their questions were smart and good enough. And of course they were. What does that tell us? Well, that they are authentic human beings who get nervous, and that's okay. And they have inspired us to be more human too.
The second important skill for good leadership, and another key learning from Leadcast, concerns passion and setting boundaries. If you're passionate about your work, as all of our guests are, there is a risk of burning out. You have surely heard the well-worn advice that if you find your passion and do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. As nice as this sounds, we think it's a total myth. Finding your professional passion can actually be dangerous because you get so excited about work that you may quickly end up saying yes to absolutely everything. So the advice from our podcast guests is to be aware of this risk, to set boundaries, learn where to draw the line, emphasizing the power of saying no.
To succeed in this, you should find other passions in life than work and most importantly, avoid developing a symbiotic relationship with your work. It's about your mindset and identity, and about being aware of the fact that your passion may become a double-edged sword. If you identify so strongly with your work that you lack balance between your professional life and personal life, it's time to consider your other important identities.
We had an insightful discussion with a seasoned business lawyer who had experienced several burnouts during his law firm career. We learned that the more identities you have, the better off you are in life. After this discussion, we started to think about our own identities. We're lawyers, of course, but we're also podcast hosts, moms, friends, sisters, wives. We don't always appreciate these other identities compared to our professional ones, but they're at least equally important. They help us explore those boundaries and find balance. We encourage all of you to take a moment and reflect. What are your identities in life?
In addition to authenticity and setting boundaries, there's a third, incredibly important theme that pops up in our discussions frequently, and that is failure, or embracing mistakes as learning opportunities. To become successful, failures are without a doubt necessary along the way. As one board professional framed it, you should make sure to fail. Otherwise, you haven't tried hard enough or ventured outside of your comfort zone. The crucial thing is to learn from the experience. Or, as another leader told us, a failure is a gift. You should treat it as such. And what's more, you can help others learn from your mistakes too, if you dare to share.
We always ask our Leadcast guests about their go-to job interview question. The most common answer is, what is your biggest failure and what did you learn from it? Whenever we hear this, we can't resist asking our guests the same question, and they're always willing to share. So going back to our first key learning, which was authenticity, this emphasis on failure, self-reflection, and willingness to share lessons learned really shows that our guests are human and authentic, and they dare to show their weaknesses and failures.
We have now shared with you 3 key learnings from discussions with our inspiring Leadcast guests. But we want to share you one more insight, a sort of bonus, and that is, don't forget to laugh along the way, especially at yourself. The power of laughter shouldn't be underestimated, even when times get tough. Most leaders we have talked to underline that work should be fun, at least most days. One founder has even made a personal commitment to make laughter a part of every executive team meeting, be it a joke or sharing good news.
To conclude, it's hard to determine what successful business leaders have in common on the surface. But underneath, based on the 100 Leadcast episodes that we've done, what we've learned is that the best and most successful leaders are comfortable in their own skin. They are real and true to themselves and others, and they strongly encourage us to be the same.
They're passionate about their work, but advise us to be careful with our passion and to find it outside of our professional lives too. They're not afraid to take risks and fail, and then share those failures.
We know that many of you listening to this talk are wondering about the key skills required to become future leaders. And you may be asking yourselves, are leaders born or made?
And the answer is, they are made. There are no born leaders. While there are no shortcuts to great leadership, it can be understood as a toolbox of skills that can be learned. And the learning never ends. There's probably nobody out there who masters the toolbox perfectly. Good leaders are imperfect because they are human, just like you and me.
So, the good news for all of you future leaders is that no superpowers are needed. What you do need is courage to get to know yourself, to explore your personal strengths and weaknesses, to find your passion, and to embrace your many identities. You'll need courage to dare to fail, and then more courage to admit those failures to yourself and others, to embrace failures as learning opportunities.
You will also need courage to say no and to set those boundaries, even when work is your passion. Because it's very challenging, if not impossible, to be successful in leading others unless you lead yourself, sitting firmly in the driver's seat of your own life. Thank you.